It's my honour and privilege to speak to you about John Kennedy Jr. And I'll start. John was recruited straight from school, De La Salle, the oldest son of John Kennedy Sr., a legendary player and coach for the club, and Dulcie Kennedy, who I would suggest hardly missed one of his games. Sadly, Dulcie died earlier this year, but I know how proud she would be of you tonight, John, for your achievement. You're the 665th player to represent the club, and on the completion of your career, there's a few gone past you, but at 241 games, you are currently number 16 in the most played for Hawthorn. I do remember your debut. Yeah, it's worth a clap, I suppose, isn't it? 241 games. I do remember your debut in round 6, 1979. You played on the half-forward flank at Carlton. Playing your first game is never easy, but when you draw an opponent called Alex Jesaulenko, a Carlton and AFL legend, then the chances are AFL footy, or VFL footy then, could only get a little bit easier. I do recall the centre bounces in particular, where John would stand as wide as he could, hoping to entice, under David Park and his coach's instructions, that Jesaulenko would move across and guard John more carefully. Jezza snuck a look, reckoned his opponent was A, most likely not going to get the ball kicked to him out there, and B, if he did, he mightn't do much with it. But it showed one of John's great strengths as a player. He'd always do what was asked by any of his coaches, and always for the best outcome for the team. He went on to win the club's best first-year player for that year. The next 3 years, he honed his game. He'd always had his trademark speed and agility for his size, coupled with his great endurance. But it'd be fair to say he worked on those aspects of his game he knew needed to improve. And this is not being disrespectful. His kicking and his hands. His diligence to improve himself as a player was second to none. Another productive year followed in 1983. It culminated in his first premiership. Without taking anything away from his teammate Colin Robinson, who won the Norm Smith medal, Roo was a very close second. Just as his son Josh had been close to winning the medal last year. So with a fraction of luck, they could have been the first father-son combination to win the Norm Smith medal. In 1984, John kicked 5 goals in the first quarter of a game against Carlton. Out of respect, I can't remember the Carlton player's name. But John reminded me of this recently when we were talking about footy, and I said, Robbie Gray was good last night. He could have kicked 5 goals in a quarter. And he goes, not many of us can do that, Swabby. You're right, John. If you'd done that for the last 3 quarters of that day, you would currently be the AFL record holder for most goals in a game. I was surprised when checking the records that you kicked 7 goals the very next week against North Melbourne. With 12 goals in 2 games, if you'd kept that average up for a season, you'd be our 4th Hawthorn century goal kicker. But such was your versatility that you swapped constantly between the back line and the forward line. 1984 shaped as another fine season until it ended in round 21 when you broke your leg, leaving the team with a significant loss coming into that final series, a loss we couldn't replace, and in my mind had a bearing on our subsequent defeat by Essendon in the grand final. In 1985, you kept everything in-house again, marrying Bernadette Russo, younger sister of teammate Peter. In 1986, you shot to international fame as the poster boy for the AFL's foray into Japan. He adorned the magazine and posters for the Japanese-Aussie Super Bowl final. I don't know if you can recall it, but here is John rising high over Essendon's Leon Baker. Not to mark the ball, mind you, but to punch it on towards our goal. Or at least, I hope that's where he was punching it. Clearly it impressed the Japanese. In 1988, John suffered a heart ailment that almost ruined his whole year. He knew he was in trouble on a pre-season run around the Oval when Jason Dunstall went past him. Along with Willie Rioli, John remains the only other person Jason has passed on a run. But on a serious note, it was again due to his commitment and character and, of course, the medical team that he got back and played in another winning grand final team that year. A much healthier 1988, and John again added back-to-back premierships to his impressive football career. While stats don't tell a player's true worth and the value his coaches and teammates place on a player, they help a little. 241 games, 210 goals, 68.5% win ratio whenever he stepped onto the ground, 34, your Guernsey, 26 pre-season matches, 20 finals, 10 Brownlow votes, 6 grand finals, 4 premierships, 2 state games and 2 pre-season premierships. He is a very impressive dossier of ability, John. You played, believe it or not, with 98 different players in your 13-year career, and I think Ayresy, with 177 games, played the most with you. You are a greatly respected footballer and person, John, by all of us who had the pleasure to play with you and certainly enjoy your company. One of the great things when I ask people to talk and mention your football ability all came back to your character off the field as much as on the field, in the nicest possible way. You deserve this honour for your outstanding service as a player, coach, chairman of selectors, a board member under difficult circumstances, and as president of the past players and officials, your ability to connect with people right across this football club is unique, and one reason why you will never be voted out as president of the past players. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame member 2017, John Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy from 12 metres out puts through Hawthorn first.
Up towards centre wing, Kennedy. Oh, well played, John Kennedy. Kennedy playing brilliantly. Up towards centre half forward. Dunstall.
Straight to John Kennedy. Kennedy on the left foot. Metres out, the siren's gone, there's a kick and it's a goal and the Hawks hit the butt.
Clever hand pass in the square, Kennedy goal.
3 goals to John Kennedy.
John Kennedy continued to dominate up forward, 7 against North, and the Hawks by 57 points.
He kicks to Kennedy, oh gee, the Hawks are looking good now. Kennedy a chance for his second goal, and he's got it. There's the siren, and Hawthorn are premiers in 1986. The Hawks winning their 6th VFL flag.
Hi Dad, big congratulations on tonight and being inducted into the Hawthorn Hall of Fame. Tremendous achievement. I certainly know how much the club means to you and has meant to you over so many years. Not only the 4-day and 4-night, which you tell me and all my friends about, which has been massive, but the time and effort that you've put in since leaving the club and everything that you've got back. It's a tremendous achievement, as I said earlier. So well done. Would love to be down there and celebrating. Look forward to seeing you next time, giving you a big hug, and I'm sure there's many teammates around that you're going to kick on and have a great night as you always have. So congratulations and all the best, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Well, that came out of nowhere. I certainly wasn't expecting that. But it'd be nice if we could twist one of those screens round so I could see it next time. But anyway, thanks very much. First of all, thank you very much to the board, the committee, the selection committee, Hall of Fame selection committee for selecting me, and congratulations to all the other nominees tonight, and especially to Knightsy, who's made it as a legend. I often, times like this, you do reflect somewhat, and I think you do appreciate more now the events that occurred when you were playing than I did when I played. There's no doubt as the older you get, the more you appreciate the things that we were able to achieve as a group and as individuals, and the wonderful times that we experienced. There are a lot of people along the journey. I often think what a different life I would have had if I wasn't a Kennedy, and I wouldn't have had the privilege of being able to go to the footy club with Dad and see all the great players at the time, even the Martellos and the Moores and whatnot at the time, and hang around with Crimmins, and just be down there in that environment was something special for me as a child. And then I got to the footy club and I was able to go from being a fairly average student to getting a job in the plumbing industry, and then also in the building industry, through the aid of the football club. That then enabled me to get into business in the same industry and forge a successful career and in that area, to which I've been able to live a very comfortable lifestyle, so I owe the football club a lot in that respect. I also was privileged enough to run into my wife through Peter Russo at the football club. So I have them again to be eternally grateful for, to be able to have met Bernadette through Peter, who was a good friend of mine, who is a good friend of mine still obviously, but at the footy club at the time was a good friend. So it taught me a lot of things over the journey, the life lessons that I learned through the footy, particularly at a young age, taught me in business as well. I took a lot of the things that I learned from the coaches, Parko and Yabby and Joycey, over the journey, took them into business, and they stick with me now, even to this day. So I'm forever grateful for that as well. Thanks to my good friend here, Swabby. I think, he did say that I was, sometimes he did mention the fact that I was as good on the field off the field as I was perhaps on the field. I'm not sure about that. I think the 3-vote winner, or the Brownlow winner, was generally Peter. When we went away overseas, he was the best on ground, consistently good performer. And Yabby used to say the best players always seem to get their worst game and their best game. The graph would get very flat. There wouldn't be any ups and downs. And the thing about Peter's graph was it was always very high. It was always one level. He was always the best. And so I don't know about that one, mate. I think you were better than I were. Do me on a break going overseas. But he and Jenny have been great friends of ours, and we for a long time, ever since since I went to Hawthorn for that, and there again is another great thing that's come about through my involvement with the footy club. I'd like to thank also the guys that I played with at the time. There's a few of them here tonight, in Greenie over there and Jace. Actually, the story about Jace is correct. I did hit the deck, and I'm usually out the front. I was in the first few anyway, and I did hit the deck in '88. And it wasn't so much that I knew I was in trouble when Jason ran past. It was just that I got such a fright. This huge individual running past me. It was like a massive elephant walking past. Because I was a little bit delirious too, but it was a fright, Jace. But anyway, we won't talk about that too much tonight, will we, mate? To all the supporters here tonight, and the ones particularly who were with us in the 80s, and I still see them around at different things at Mort's functions and whatnot, it's great to see them, and thank you very much for your support over the journey. You're still here, a lot of you, and it's great to see your faces. It's really something about a footy club that's great, that you see these people all the time, and when you don't see them every year or every week or every month, but when you do see them, you have a great time and you catch up on old memories. So thank you to all the supporters who went with us all the way during the 80s in particular. To Bernadette and the children, Ben, Zave and Lucy, who are here tonight, and particularly Bernadette, who has been there all the way from the start. She's been there for all the ups and downs, and I couldn't have got to where I have without her. So I want to publicly acknowledge her assistance and finally to the one man who made it all happen. A big thank you to Dad. It's been a tough 6 months or so. I couldn't have got to where I got without your guidance and direction, particularly in the early days. It was invaluable. I know it's been tough, but I'm sure Mum would be up there now looking down, and she would be really proud of what has been achieved here tonight. So thank you, Dad, for your assistance over the many, many years. And finally, to everyone tonight, I'd just like to finish by saying thank you to the footy club. They have been an enormous part of my life. As I've said, other than my parents, they have been the biggest influence on my life, and I thank them. I can never thank them enough for what's happened today. Thank you very much.